Save
Be
some of that for the
agreeable.
audience, though.
You might need it. Okay.
Be agreeable.
I told Donna I would try to keep the masses in control.
I'm glad to see
Yeah, she
Jeff
just wants to
here.
get further away.
Further away.
Yeah, she just wants to
Are
get
you
further
in
away.
charge of the clicker with for
cross some of
Marion?
this stuff
Oh, there's a wink at you.
I sure will be.
Okay, do we have a clicker?
I have a mouse.
Okay. I told her to give you a little hard time. and she said she would-
This isn't good.
Oh,
Three women
I
up
have to
there.
pay attention how close this is.
Well, there's always three of
I
them.
know, this isn't good with the one that just moves up there. This isn't good.
Oh,
I see you got a new, different truck on the pumper.
oh, my legislative.
Freightliner looked like
is
that.
there anything that looked real horrible? Or
Freightliner,
anything that looked
three
real
pumpers,
great?
holy moly.
We'll have five freight
I guess whichever way you go is
Two more,
Turning out okay?
more gas to the truck.
I didn't see anything that was
Turning
real
out okay, the way you thought?
Okay, great, thank you.
looked at,
for looking
I
at that
normally
photo.
don't watch the weather or anything at noon.
Did you hear anything from
Otherwise,
about that, what you asked him or not? That Ford?
Joe called me, but I haven't got back to him.
You're keeping track of
I was in
the.
Michigan for last Wednesday.
okay.
And then yesterday they had a new car in
Got
there,
one, a little over one too.
car for NASCAR. 215. Goodyear's coming out with new tires that have a better grip to hold them so they don't slide into the wall. They were testing all that stuff yesterday.
Presentation for
They built like the lawnmower races they had at the fair. They said some of them little devils, they have them souped up, they go 55, 60 miles an hour. They just zipped around there, had hay bales set up. A couple of them hit them, the hay went rolling one way and they spun out and burned around.
Really?
It was fun. Didn't have a big crowd watching them, but
Oh, spelling.
what else is new at the fair?
Let
You know?
them know.
I never, every year I can't go to the fair because it's,
Who types that out? Huh? Does Deb type that out? Who types that out?
there's so many,
Tell Eric to keep it brief tonight. Who? Eric. Oh,
yes, I did.
okay, good.
revised,
Otherwise we won't ask him back next year.
Yeah, here. Yeah, right here.
revised one.
Well, unless you're.
There's so much crossed out. There's so much.
Getting our time, ain't it?
Right on. Come on, Donna.
The sooner we start, the sooner we'll get done.
All the women from Hancock. Let me see.
Oh, they put it on your desk?
Because
Okay.
I didn't watch them all.
Come on there, chairperson. Let's go. Come on.
Didn't mess around when you were sitting up there, did we?
No, I kept things rolling, didn't I?
Should I go tell her if she ain't careful, she can be replaced?
That's what I what I do at
Myself
Paloma.
a note, know if you're ready.
That baby rolling? I see they got the Ron Selinsky Memorial pooper in.
They say it looks pretty nice.
I didn't get to see it all. I helped dig out and do a few things, and Gary sent me out of there before they got it all set.
Okay, let's call the meeting to
Looked pretty
order.
good. Pretty nice.
First on our agenda, we have a motion to confirm my appointment of Jerry Rothermill as District 10 Supervisor. He will replace Larry Crawford, who passed away.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the appointment.
Motion by Weddy, second by Kirschner. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, now Jerry will be sworn in by Mel as our District 10 Supervisor.
Okay, Jerry, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jerry Rothermel,
I, Jerry Rothermel,
having been appointed
have been appointed
to the office of District 10 County Board Supervisor,
to the office of District 10 County Board of Supervisors,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
discharge the duties of the said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Very good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And on that note, Jerry, we do expect at least one crazy joke for each meeting because Larry always
Thank you, sir.
brought us silly jokes. Okay, now we'll have roll call.
Mrs. Krentz.
Here.
Mr. Heisey.
Here.
Mr. Temp.
Here.
Mr. Piaski.
Here.
Mr. Eckstein.
Here.
Mr. Weddy.
Here.
Mrs. Palata.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Wadel.
Here.
Mr. Rothermel.
Here.
Mr. Kirschner.
Here.
Thank you. Now we will have public comments. It's 3 minutes per person with 15-minute maximum time period. The first person who signed up to speak to the board is Terry Liska.
Hello, my name is Terry Liska, and I'm president of the Watoma Senior Center. I'd like to encourage the county board to vote no regarding the new meal site meeting facility. Waushara County Board should consider the impact this new facility has on our seniors and our taxpayers. The Senior Center recently conducted a survey of seniors at our meal site. The center received 288 responses, and only one indicated a preference for the new meal site. 85% of those seniors indicated they participated in an activity after the meal. The new meal site will force seniors to eat at one place and have activities in another. A number of our seniors do not drive. The county board should make it more convenient for seniors, not less. The current meal site has easy access, a parking lot, and a basement in case of severe weather. The meal site meeting room addition will not have a basement, and parking will be an issue for some seniors. The county board should look ways to improve the safety for our seniors, not reduce it. The new facility will hurt county taxpayers. Since the proposed expenditure is $75,000 to $150,000, more than the money being donated, the maintenance cost will be at a minimum of $12,000 a year and will increase as the building ages. The maintenance for the current meal site is privately funded. Should the county board approve this project, I believe you have a responsibility to county taxpayers to be upfront on how this project will be funded. The board should state if taxes will be increased, or if services will be cut, or if some combination of both will occur to duplicate facilities the county already has. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Janet Liska, same address.
Hello, my name is Janet Liska, and I want to thank the county board for the job that they have done so far. I think you've done the right thing. You didn't immediately accept or reject a very generous offer. You said, let's look into things, let's take our time and think this through. Good job. You did spend a little money up front to do a thorough investigation of what this will cost the community. I commend you for doing the right thing. You also investigated how people felt at the senior center about this proposed move of the meal site. Some of you came over to one of our meetings and talked with us, and you've gotten input from people. We have a lot of members of our senior center here right now, and I'd like them to raise their hands if you're a member of the senior center here. Okay. We have a lot of people here tonight because this is a very important issue. Now I'd like you to raise your hand if you're here because you want them to accept the offer and build a new meal site. Now I'd like you to raise your hand if you're against this new meal site proposal. Again, I think you're doing the right thing by getting input from the members of the senior center. Now that we know that the upfront costs are $75,000 to $150,000, we know that the yearly maintenance is going to be $12,000 or more. I urge you to continue to do the right thing that you've done all along up to now and reject the very generous offer to expand the meal site over here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have James C. Pierce.
Thank you. My name is James Pierce. I'm a Town of Marion resident, Waushara County taxpayer. Again, I would like to applaud the county board for a lot of the things that they've done in the past to reduce expenses and reduce taxes. We appreciate that. However, this additional building is not really needed. The current site is not overcrowded. The security in the courthouse can be increased, upgraded, a number of different ways at less expense than building another building. Our Governor, Scott Walker, turned down a gift from the U.S. government for a commuter train from Madison to Milwaukee, not because he didn't want the train, but because he didn't want the yearly maintenance. And this is an issue with this new building. It's going to cost money, $12,000 a year, every year. I, for one, will follow this project and report back to the taxpayers as best I can the results over the next few years if this is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Neil Starkey.
Neil Starkey. I'm a member of the Senior Center and a participant in the meal site. One of the things I wondered, if our old kitchen ever needs to be expanded, where would they go if they had this addition put onto it? And I was thinking, too, for parking. Parking is only limited over there for the space for the people that you're anticipating using it. They say, well, you can use the Sheriff's Department, but the Sheriff's Department is on the incline, and there are not many seniors going to use that incline to get up, especially during the winter months. And the other thing I wondered about, putting all that money in, there was no dishwasher in that building. And how are they going to go through to the kitchen when they had activities there with their dishes? Place where you're preparing the meals for the general public. I wonder if that wouldn't be a health issue. And all of those that presently eat at the meal site and are engaged in activities are well satisfied, and we'd still like to meet there and keep our activities at a level. And we look at the cost level, I always think about $12,000 versus $1,800 a year is quite a difference. And you know, and I think all this here came about from a dispute between our director at the center and an individual. And it seems a shame that this had to come to this unfortunate end. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we will have an approval of the agenda, please.
As printed.
Second it.
By Bernadette, second by Bob Waito. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have the minutes of the June 17th, 2014 monthly meeting. It was in your packet for approval. Motion by Everett.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Dennis to approve the minutes. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we have no old business, so I will at this time take this opportunity to introduce Joe Brandt. He is the EMS director. He is an interim EMS director. Joe, would you like to say a few words?
I'd like to say hello. I feel very welcome in the community. Thank you. I've met some of you out and about, and I look forward to hopefully be successful in this position. And please feel free to stop over. My office is across the street if you'd like. Stop over, introduce yourself, and come in and sit down and chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, next we are going to recognize Joe Piaski. I don't know if you saw this in the paper. Joe was recognized for 25 years of service to Golden Sands RC&D Council. Congratulations, Joe. Do you have anything you want to impart on us?
A little early because it's just going into the 25th year, but they decided they wanted to do it early this year.
Not your fault they can't count, Joe. Okay, thank you so much. Very good job, Joe. All right, now we'll move on to new business, and we have some reports and presentations. First, we have Speak Your Piece, the Civility Project overview, and this is Marianne Schilling from UW Extension, Family Living Educator. And I'd like to say that Larry, Tim, and I attended a library board meeting on Monday, and they loved your programs. They were so grateful, you know, that you had come and done summer programs there, and they really enjoyed them and said the people that came did too. So thank you. And of course, Everett did his square foot gardening too. So
yes, 4-H youth leadership and family living and Everett. So that's nice to hear.
Very good. Good job.
Thank you. And I haven't met all of you. As she said, I'm Marianne Schilling. I'm the family living educator. I started way back in December. So it's good to be here. And hello to many of you back here. I recognize faces. So back in the winter, Melanie and I were at a Rotary Club meeting, and I was presenting on some of the programs I do, and this is one that I mentioned. And Melanie asked me to come and present, which I'm happy to do. And this is a civility project. Have any of you heard of it before? Our neighbors up north in Duluth Superior actually started this back in 2003. And it is a project that is in parts of Wisconsin and other states too. So this really looks at how we can increase our communication and avoid personal attacks and general stubbornness and have healthy debate. And I was really impressed. The presentations were all civil. After everything we've heard about the disruptions down in Missouri, that is an uncivil way to present ideas and thoughts. So we really want to increase our community and participation of the citizens within the community, whether it's government, church groups, or even parents on sidelines at athletic events. So I'm going to just talk a little bit more about this. As I mentioned, the Civility Project was actually started in Duluth Superior, excuse me, because they wanted to communicate in a more respectful and effective way. And as you know, whether it's in government or other areas, when a particular issue strikes at the fundamental beliefs of a group or an individual, there can be debates, and those debates can get fierce. So in Duluth Superior, they wanted to increase their civility and how they attacked some of these debates in a more civil manner. And they actually based this project on 9 simple tools from P.M. Forney's book, Choosing Civility. Okay, so I'm going to go through those 9 tools. This program actually has some extensive activities that go along with it, but I was asked to limit my time, which is fine. So, but I'll ask you some questions to have some personal reflections on your own. So the first tool is pay attention. Be aware and attend to the world and the people around you. So if you just think about your day today, or maybe your meeting tonight, and ask, have you been paying attention? Was there a time that maybe you could pay more attention to what's around you? Okay. The second tool is listening. Focus on others in order to better understand their points of view. I think we had just a great example tonight. People came up, gave their points of view. Were you focusing and listening to what they had to say, even though you may have a different opinion or another opinion? Listening and for the content and the feeling, and not thinking about what am I going to say to respond. Okay, being inclusive. We have a diverse citizen group throughout Waushara County, throughout our state, nation, and world. We have a lot of diversity. It doesn't necessarily mean only cultural diversity. We have religious diversity. We have diverse points of view. So we need to be welcoming and inclusive, even if the points of view are a little different than our own. So think about maybe what is a group of citizens that you may be working with, or how can you welcome that group for the greater good of the community. So just think about maybe here or in your position as a board member, what is maybe a group that you work with that you can welcome them for the greater good of the community. Oh, I love this one. Don't gossip. So gossiping is basically talking about somebody personally behind their back. When I teach classes, especially think about a co-parenting class where parents are divorcing and maybe only one parent is there and the other divorcing parent is not there, or a separating parent. And the first thing I say to those people are, you know what, that other person isn't here to defend themselves, so we're going to talk about the issues, and we're not going to gossip or talk about things that other person did or didn't do. So basically it's, if somebody's gossiping, what can you do? Maybe excuse yourself. So it's not accepting when others choose to do that. So think about a time maybe that you gossiped, or how can you prevent yourself from doing that? All right, and the next tool is showing respect. Being respectful, honoring other people, honoring their opinions, especially in the midst of a disagreement. So if you think about a time, when did you have a disagreement with someone, whether it's in your life as a board member or maybe your personal life? It can be, I know for myself, it can be really hard sometimes to show that respect and to honor that other person's opinion. It really takes a mature person to do that. So honoring a person in the middle of a disagreement, and part of that respectfulness, again, is listening. Okay. And another tool is be agreeable. That doesn't mean that you have to say yes to everything, but it does mean looking for opportunities to agree and not going out of your way to disagree. Have you ever been in a meeting, or have you ever known somebody where they always say no, no matter what? It's like they want to disagree for the sake of disagreeing. So again, it's being thoughtful and not being contradictory just to contradict, but be agreeable. Find the common ground, even if it's a little piece of common ground, to help for civility. All right, and then the next tool is to apologize. Think about a situation maybe where you had the chance to apologize, and have a sincere apology. Maybe if you were a parent and you told your children, no, you say you're sorry. We can all probably identify with that. But it's finding that sincerity within yourself and repairing damaged relationships. And typically an apology is, I'm sorry for doing this or saying this, and next time I'll do this instead. And sometimes, that might take a little time to come to that point of apologizing, but it really does repair relationships. And then another tool is giving constructive criticism. So I think a great example, again, is when people were sharing tonight, they weren't personally attacking anyone in the room. They stuck to the issue. So sticking to issues, not giving personal attacks, is a way to have constructive criticism and to really move a project along. Because if you're personally attacking someone, you're not going to be going anywhere. So this is a great tool when there's a hot issue. Focus on the issue. Okay, and then take responsibility. We've all probably read poems or heard readings about not passing the buck and being personally responsible. So don't shift responsibility and blame onto others. Be responsible yourself. And also don't share disagreements publicly. If you have a personal disagreement with someone, go to them one-on-one. However, in a big picture, if you can address something with civility and, say, okay, I am responsible for this and moving forward. So take on the responsibility for yourself. So this is I just want to finish with a quote from an author who wrote in the early 1900s, 3 things in human life are important. The first is to be kind, the second is to be kind, and the third is to be kind. So even if you disagree on something, you can still practice kindness and civility and think about how you're saying and how you're saying what you are saying. So just in finalization, in order to harness the passion that people may have within the community or within the county, it's important to communicate with civility and in a productive way. Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I love this. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I'd fight $1 for every time I told my daughters that.
Yeah, it really is a great saying. And so often how we say something, the message might get lost because of the way we said it. And maybe it wasn't really how we meant to have the message interpreted. So, and please keep your posters hanging up on your refrigerator or put them on your desk or wherever you want to have them. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Okay, next we have a presentation from East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, and this is an update from the Executive Director, Eric Foe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Supervisors, for some time on your agenda this evening, and I welcome Supervisor Rothermel, if I'm pronouncing that right. So I know this will be new for you, and I always take the opportunity, since I've got an audience here, to hopefully educate them as well. In front of you, you do have a copy of our latest annual report. I know you may have received one in the mail earlier in the year at one of the committee meetings, but I'm not going to reference too much out of that. If you don't need the copy, I'd encourage you to give it to the clerk or distribute them to some of the county department desks so the public can take them if they have interest. But within that, or inside, is a small summary sheet of a number of the activities that East Central has been working on. For those that aren't familiar, East Central is an advisory unit of government. We were created back in 1972 by executive order of the governor, and regional planning commissions were actually requested by the counties who were at the time dealing with issues that cross multiple jurisdictions. So one of our charges is to foster intergovernmental cooperation and to provide assistance as well as looking at regional issues, including the preparation of our own regional comprehensive plan, much like the local units of government and the county have. On the left side of that sheet is a listing of our member counties. We cover 10 counties, but the 7 are members. I'd like to let you know that we are avidly working on trying to add an 8th member and have had some very encouraging discussions so far this year with Fond du Lac County. We think the timing is right. They dropped out back in 1982 for well before my time, but I think some petty issues that affected the county executive at that time and a highway running through her farm. So that happens. But we're making some headway, and hopefully we'll have good news to report on that later in the year. I do want to recognize the three commissioners that we have that represent the county, including your current chair, Donna Collada. Also recognize that she is our new chair for the commission and will be serving probably 2 consecutive one-year terms if history stands and the way things have worked. So we will look forward to working under her leadership. Neil Strelo and Larry Tim, as the governor's appointee, represent the county. So please do communicate with them, or if there are issues and things that we're involved with or opportunities, relay that information to them, and they'll certainly give me a phone call. The levy for East Central has remained pretty good over the last 9 years. The last 6 or 7, we have managed to reduce that levy for all of our counties. For 2015, Commission adopted their budget and basically are keeping our total levy amount stable at about $692,000. When we take a look at the property values and the apportionment of them, Waushara County's levy drops by about $1,000 or about 2%. We can't promise that every year, but we do what we can to leverage additional dollars. In fact, for every dollar that's contributed by the counties, we leverage about another $8 to $10 for each dollar provided. So I think that shows a pretty good record. Also, a listing of a recent award that we had gotten for a project in the Fox Cities in the village of Kimberly. Not that that's applicable here, but I think it goes to show that with the staff that we have, they're very competent, the leadership that we have, and I think this is the 9th year in a row that we've won some type of state or national award or recognition, and we hope to continue to do that and show the value in our work. I'm not going to hit all the points that are listed on this summary sheet, but we serve a couple of important roles within the region, including being a designated economic development district by the Economic Development Administration at the federal level. We do receive funding to do planning work, provide technical assistance. We prepare an annual economic development strategy for the region, and we always encourage input and feedback during that process from the county and the local level. We also look for opportunities where there are projects, public projects that will foster private investment, and there are grant monies available through EDA if it meets certain criteria. I know a lot of activity doesn't happen out here in Waushara County, but if you even have the inkling that something is pending or an opportunity exists that could fit with that funding, do give us a call, and we'll certainly take a look and sit down with those that are involved to examine opportunities for funding there. We do a lot of transportation work. We've been designated as a metropolitan planning organization for the urban areas within our region, but we do provide a lot of assistance to the rural areas, and we do get funding to provide that, whether it's helping out with simple intersection design problems or safety issues that are out there, providing traffic counts, or working with DOT on sort of those local versus state disputes. We jump right in the middle and have a pretty good track record of trying to find some resolve to any issues there. We also do work regularly updating various plans that are required to receive federal funding and other grants, particularly in the realm of public transit and human services, transportation, and the coordination of that. And for a number of years, we've been running an award-winning Safe Routes to School program and working with a couple of school districts within Waushara County and numerous others within our region. It is still, to my knowledge, the only regional program in the state. It was started as a pilot by DOT. We have won national recognition for that, and I think is a model for efficiency on how the state spends their money and invests it in helping out in situations like this. I can further tell you that we were recently awarded another round of funding, about $800,000 to continue that program through 2018. The difference is that now some of the county's money is needed to match those dollars, where before it was 100% funded. And we have the ability to do that because of the levy that we have through your county. So it's much appreciated, and we hope that more school districts come on board in your county and through the region. We work a lot on environmental management types of issues, anything from assisting in the creation of new data and information that can help local level decisions. And again, within the tucked inside that report, I've included a copy of a latest publication which is looking at groundwater recharge within Menominee, Shawano, Waupaca, and Waushara counties. We did phase 1 of this for the urban counties, Calumet, Outagamie, and Winnebago, followed up with the rural counties, and we now have a better picture of the conditions out there in the natural environment that foster recharge of rainwater and surface water into the aquifer system, which of course can not only have local impacts but regional impacts. There is a little bit of information in the back and some analysis looking specifically at some of the issues regarding recharge and irrigation with high-capacity wells in the back. So I would encourage you to read that, and if you've got any questions regarding that, you can certainly contact me, or we can put you in touch with the authors. And there may be, some follow-up study on that at some point. But this is a project that the county's levy dollars contributed to directly. To do those 2 phases of work and contracting with the Geologic Survey, we spent about $30,000 of the various counties' monies to do this and really fill a hole in terms of knowledge, as well as creating GIS-based data that can now be used by the county for making other land use decisions. We also continue to work on a number of regional issues, including water quality issues within the Winnebago Pool Lake system, and dealing with things such as phosphorus and algae, and developing a strategy to address those in collaboration. And for the size of that system, it's a challenge, and we know going through this process so far, it continues to be a challenge, and there will in fact be a meeting tomorrow evening with the advisory group working on that, and the consultant who's helping us facilitate that process to get some reactions to a small study that was done looking at different options for collaborative management of that system. So if you don't have anything to do tomorrow night, I would encourage you to attend. On the back side of that sheet, list one of our other programs which we're really noted for, and I think is one of the areas where the counties, all the counties, kind of get a lot of bang for their buck. We use a lot of the levy dollars that we raise through our financial methods to provide services back to the counties and the communities, because many of them don't have the capacity or don't have the planning staff or abilities to address many local level issues. So we've helped out over the years, certainly in dozens of small scale projects within the counties, anything from assisting the town of Coloma with developing some amendments to its comprehensive plan that would accommodate the Pleasant Lake Park, to providing training to police officers in the city of Berlin so that they can do their jobs and the public works folks can do their jobs better using new data and new tools. We actually found out that the police department was using parcel data that was about 5 or 6 years old. So we were able to facilitate getting them new data and really being more in tune with the world out there. A number of GIS projects are also listed there, and again, I like to emphasize that we don't look at replacing a lot of the functions that county staff provide. We look at helping in times of need or enhancing what they do. I always look at it that we don't want to do what they do and they don't want to do what we do, but we work quite well together, and we want to continue that. As this year progresses and in looking into next year, I've noted a few items that we'll have some involvement with. In fact, a subsequent agenda item will be looking at the approval of a contract that's funded by a grant to assist the Sheriff's Department in working with Lieutenant Gansel to do an update of the All Hazards Mitigation Plan, which we had a role in a few years back. We're also having some conversations at the commission level about how we can continue some of the aquatic invasive species work on the Winnebago Pool Lakes that was previously funded by DNR, but that funding has since gone to the wayside. And in fact, there's only one county, Calumet County, that has a aquatic invasive species coordinator position. And for a system that size, it's not going to do a lot of good, and that's certainly a regional asset that we want to find some solution to. We are shipping out probably this week or next week the letters of request and the forms to all of the communities, as well as key county officials and department heads, asking for your request for technical assistance next year. We do this on an annual basis. We receive those requests and process them, prioritize them, and incorporate what we can into our work program for next year. So I would encourage all of you to spread that word. If nothing else, pick up your own comprehensive plan, look at it, and see what kind of activities or recommendations are in there for small-scale projects or future work that really ought to be done following up the comprehensive plan process. So that's a quick summary of everything that we do. We certainly have more capabilities on our staff than even what's listed here. And I like to think that if we can't help on something, we can usually find some resources that can. So do keep us in mind. And if you've ever got questions, I'm more than happy to come out for other meetings or talk to you one-on-one in person or by the phone. My phone doesn't ring enough sometimes, I think. I shouldn't say that because I just jinxed myself. But nonetheless, we appreciate the county's membership. We certainly hope that you feel there's value in it for the costs that you have, or I should say investment. And I'd be happy to talk more about any of those things at any time. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Do you have any questions for Eric? The plan at the Cedars at Kimberly was nothing short of amazing. I couldn't believe the job they did on that. And that's on the website, isn't it?
I think we have it on our website. It's also on the Village of Kimberly's website. And I think it's important to note it's not the outcome on the master plan that was developed for that former New Page Mill site in Kimberly that was abandoned, but it was really the process that we used to set the basis for that master plan. And that process is really flexible and can be used in a number of situations, including doing comprehensive planning, looking at specific site redevelopment opportunities. We're working with City of Wapaka looking at a new vision for their entire downtown area. So it's something we've adapted to a number of situations, a number of different formats. We're working with Oshkosh too, doing visioning for their riverfront. So it's a process that works and gets a lot better information and actual public engagement before a lot of planning is done, and really sets the tone for that planning that would follow. So if you've got interest or see opportunities, let us know. But thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you. Enjoy the evening.
All right, next we have discussion and possible action items, and Eric said he would stay here since this is the contract with the Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission for preparation of all hazard mitigation plan update. And you have that in your book. Are there any questions concerning that? They're going to let you off the hook here pretty easily, Eric. I guess we need a motion to approve. Motion by Eckstein, second by Piaski. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Guess that means you did a really great job.
I guess so. I'll have to try to be worse next time. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Next, we have the Department of Aging Kitchen Addition Meeting Room bids.
Okay.
First of all, before you go on, Ruth, I would really like to thank Randy and Debbie Pavla. They did a great job on this. They were very patient. They did a good job. I appreciate that.
So in your packet is a summary of the 3 bids that we did get. As you'll recall, we had gotten an offer for a donation to construct a meeting room meal site to the existing condition out by the Sheriff's Department, and the county board had authorized us to spend a little bit of money to get bids to see how much the actual project itself would cost. And so the 3 bids are the bids that we got. These are the only people who were interested in the bids, and that is the amount of money. That money is the construction of the building itself, as well as a few things that go along with that. Attached to that was a list that was prepared by Randy regarding some of the things that he would be responsible for in addition to the actual bids for the building, including some of the blacktopping of the parking lot and some of the equipment. In addition to that, we did ask Debbie to look into chairs and tables and racks and things like that. And so that amount is going to be an additional $10,000. So if you look at the bids that you got, you're looking at about another $75,000 on top of the bids to complete this project. That would get it up and ready and all equipped, and then of course you would have the yearly maintenance.
Okay, are there any questions? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we reject all bids.
You're just rejecting the bids or the
Or
project?
the whole project.
Okay, motion
I'll
by Waddell, second by King. Are there any questions or comments? I would believe we need a roll call vote on this, don't we, Ruth?
Yes, that would be appropriate.
All right. Mr.
And yes means we will not do
Not
it.
to do it.
Yes,
No means, okay,
yes.
reject, okay.
Okay, Mr. Eckstein,
Yes.
Mr. Weddy,
Yes.
Mrs. Claudia. Yes. Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Waddell,
Yes.
Mr. Rothermel,
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner,
Yes.
Mrs. Krantz,
Yes.
Mr. Heisey,
Yes.
Mr. Tim,
Yes.
Mr. Piasky.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And now that the issue has been decided, I would like to take an opportunity to speak to the board and those in attendance concerning this issue. I told Debbie Pavla today that to me this falls under the premise of no good deed goes unpunished. And I used to be on the Commission on Aging board, and one of the first things I learned about was advocacy. Inasmuch as I saw firsthand how advocacy can work, unfortunately in this case, it took a very sad turn when anger concerning the proposed building turned to anger first with the person that offered the county the money to build the building, then again anger with anyone who tried to explain what the proposal was and why the county board was looking into it. Sheriff Ned and I went to the senior center at the invitation of the then chairman of the board at the senior center, and I did not feel that we were treated very well. It seemed that we were there so members could complain about the person donating the money and tell us how wrong we were to look into the offer. As county board chair, I still feel we were obligated to look into the possibility of using the money offered to build a dining site / meeting room for the county. The concern about security of the courthouse is a real issue, and one that security cameras can only do so much to alleviate. When the work release center was on site, we had officers armed with tasers in the building at all times, day and night. One of the things that they were also able to do is watch the cameras and make sure that there was no one in the areas of the courthouse they were not supposed to be in. I think the most disheartening things I saw were the attacks on Rose Wendt, the person making the offer. One of the things that we heard was, quote, "Why doesn't she use the money to feed the poor people of the world?" Rose wants to help the people of Waushara County, and I, for one, think that's a pretty noble gesture. She's already donated so much to the county. She donated to the first canine unit and even more to the second canine unit. She has thoughtfully purchased bulletproof vests for the 2 canine handlers and buys all the food for the dogs. She made a sizable donation to the new Department of Aging kitchen. She not only contributes money, she also contributes her time serving on the Nutrition Council for the Department of Aging and volunteers at the Watoma Meal Site. I would like to personally thank Rose for her generosity in making the offer to the county, and I know the offer was made in good faith. In the end, the board asked for time so we could get the cost numbers and make an educated decision. We were not given that time by the people at the senior center. I don't know where some of the information that I saw in the letters to the Argus came from, but it was not information the committees and the board had. So I can only guess that a lot of it was picked out of thin air. I did find it interesting that a lot of attention was paid to the estimated $15,000, or now tonight it's $12,000 per year, that it might take to maintain the proposed building. This county had a budget last year in excess of $15 million, and not one person attended the public hearing to ask about that budget or what we were spending our money on. It is now time to move on, but finally, I would just like to add that it is now budget time again, and we have the daunting task ahead of us. It will take each and every one of us working together to come up with some solutions needed to keep the budget within a reasonable limit. Thank you very much. And now we'll move on. And we're moving on to the security camera project hiring consultant.
So as you know, we had talked about needing to upgrade some cameras at the jail, add some additional cameras due to the PREA project. And while we were looking into that, we were also going to look at possibly putting some cameras in the North Annex, as there are no cameras in that building at all. We did take bids on them. When we got the bids back, we weren't able to discern whether we were comparing apples to apples, or because everybody's bid was so different and the costs were extreme. There was lots of differences between them. And so with the blessing of the Public Safety Committee, we have hired a consultant from an engineering firm in Wausau that all they do, they don't install the cameras themselves. They don't try to get those kind of jobs. They design projects for secure facilities. They've been working on lots of the different facilities throughout the state, and they've agreed to come put together our proposal. So Randy, Mike Abbott's, Heather Wittig, and I met with the consultant last week. John Olson from Land Conservation is very kindly doing some drawings on his AutoCAD system for us of the jail and the North Annex, so that the consultant can put right on the blueprints where the new cameras would be located, and then that will be part of the bid project, and we will be rebidding that project. We're hoping that this will help to tighten up the bids, that it will give us a better idea of how much it will actually cost, and we're looking at having the bids presented to the committees in a couple of different manners. One, with the cameras that we think are absolutely needed to bring us in compliance with PREA, which is about 17 cameras. We have 8 cameras currently that need to be replaced for various reasons in the jail, and then there are about 9 spots that we think really should be added cameras to get better protection for that PREA compliance. And so one of the options will be just to do those minimum things, and the other option will be to also look at some other expansion areas in the jail as well as the North Annex. So hopefully we will have that information for you later this fall, and we'll have a better idea of what that project is going to cost and whether or not it's something that the county is in a position to undertake at this time.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Do you have any questions for Ruth? The Public Safety Committee felt that it was important to bring the consultants on board, because it's a whole lot cheaper to do that and do it right in the first place than it is to do it and then find out that we should have had cameras in other places. So, Everett.
You mentioned that we had to comply with this Prius or whatever. Is there a timeline there that you have to?
Well, PREA we've passed it. PREA has been in the works for a number of years. The first audits were taking place last year. We're scheduled to take our audit this year. I'm anticipating, and again, I'm not an expert. This is one of the reasons we hired a consultant, because it turned out that I don't really know how to write camera specs. Apparently they didn't teach me that in law school. I'm anticipating that we've gone through the audit tool. There's a tool online. So PREA, for those of you who don't know or don't remember, it's the Prison Rape Elimination Act. And what it basically is, was set up by the federal government. It took them a number of years to actually put together the rules that facilities need to follow. And what it is trying to do is trying to eliminate any type of sexual assaults in any type of secured setting, from juvenile confinement all the way to state prisons and federal prisons. how it impacts the county is the county is not mandated to comply with PREA, except for that it could cause us to lose some of the federal funding that we get. And how we get federal funding is by taking probation holds and other types of things like sanctions holds for people who are on probation through the Department of Corrections, or they're also looking at doing some things with people who are getting ready to re-enter the community from the prison setting, where they put them back into like a county jail setting, get them some jobs like on work release, trying to integrate them back into the community before they're completely released on extended supervision. The state, because they get federal funding, have to comply with PREA, and one of the requirements is that they can't place people in any facility that is not PREA compliant. So how the county gets tied into it is that we would not be able to take some of these placements, which would cause a loss in some of our revenues, which help to offset the housing of our own inmates. And so going through the audit tools, we have tweaked some of our policies. We have done training with the vendors who come into the jail. We've done training with our jail staff. We're working on information that every inmate gets upon arrival. We also are working on information that inmates would get then every so many weeks that they're there. They have to get a refresher course about where to report. We're looking at our protocols on how inmates and correctional officers have contact with each other so that there's no cross-gender issues, things like that. And so the cameras would just help us to make sure that all of those policies were being enforced and to help give us another layer of protection. Looking at some of the results from audits from other entities, I'm anticipating that they will come back with something that we need to work on. And what has been happening in other facilities, including bigger facilities than ours and smaller facilities, is that the auditor comes in and says, this looks good, but you need to tweak this, and then they come back to see whether or not you're continuing to work on it. So there wouldn't be a monetary penalty for not being in compliance at this point, as long as we're working towards achieving that compliance.
I have a question. As I glanced through this memo from Randy, or from Ruth actually, concerning security of the doors of the courthouse.
That's the next agenda item.
Okay, I thought we were on that. Nope.
This is the camera.
Good, I'll speak then. I will.
The cameras are just old, or how come you have to replace so many of them?
Well, basically, there are some spots that when we built the jail, we weren't thinking about. As we've been in there now for a number of years, and people have been in where they're monitoring them, they can see certain spots are blind. For instance, one of the things that the camera consultant pointed out to us that was not something that was on any of our radars is like in the hallway, like from master control to housing, we have 2 cameras that cover the hallway, but one camera faces this way and the camera that faces this way are like side by side. So there's technically a blind spot like in that area where the cameras are. And so what the camera consultant actually is recommending is that they overlap each other so that even that whole area is covered. So there are things that we are learning the longer that we're in the building. There are a couple areas in some of the housing blocks where there's not good angles, and so we're learning that maybe we should have an additional camera in one of those spots. One of the spots that we don't have a camera in right now that is specifically related to PREA is there is an area in booking where when an inmate is brought in and booked, they go back into this other room to change out of their street clothes and put on their jail uniform. You can't have a camera in the changing area, but part of the PREA regulations say that even though there has to be an officer in there to make sure that they're not bringing in contraband, there's a curtain, so you see you know, from like here up and like from here down. So there's like that curtain area. But so what we're going to do is there'll be like a line where the officer has to stand behind that line. And so what will happen is the camera will capture to see where the officer is standing to make sure that there's not a chance of someone saying that an officer was in their personal space So a lot of it, I mean, part of the fact is that we are getting more lawsuits, and so part of it is to protect us from those lawsuits, because we can pull up the footage and say, this didn't happen because this was what was on the camera. So that's part of it. And part of it is that the system is just old. It's an analog-based system, and the DVR recording systems that we have for it are becoming outdated, and we're not going to be able to continue to maintain them. So part of this project would be to move the DVRs to an IP and internet-based system that would also be able to handle our current cameras, but then as those cameras wore out, we would replace them with an IP camera, and we would still be able to have that functionality.
And we'll also be adding cameras at the North Annex as well.
Yes.
As part of this whole project, because we don't have.
No cameras over at the North Annex at all.
Currently, there are none.
Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
We don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion?
That was just a report.
Oh,
I don't have anything for you to act on today. We've already hired the consultant, and we don't have the bids back, or.
okay, but this is in the wrong spot.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Okay, all right, next we'll go to courthouse entrances.
So I think it's been a few months. We did have a conversation at one point in time about whether or not the county board was interested in limiting access to the courthouse. At that point in time, we had closed some of the minor doors on both sides, and at night only, of course, the elevator access is open and the other doors remain locked. The security committee had continued to talk about it. As you recall, they had advocated for one entrance all the time to try to limit who was coming in and out, and so there would be more of a checkpoint, like we would know where to focus our cameras, where things are happening. The reason that it's being brought back to your attention today, and I don't need a decision today, this is just something for you to think about, is as we were getting ready to prepare budgets for next year, Randy was working on his budgets, and the doors here on the south side, the elevator entrance, and the north doors over by Deb's office are going to need to be replaced. They are metal doors. There's starting to be some rust problems. There's starting to be some problems with them closing properly and things like that. And so he is looking at, as part of his 2015 work, to replace those doors, maybe put in a different style door, maybe put in some panels on the lower level so they're not all glass all the way up, for some energy conservation as well. So no matter what you end up deciding, he's going to have to replace those doors. But because he is going to be in the process of replacing those doors, we thought that we should bring this once again to your attention and have you at least start thinking about it. And what the committee is recommending at this time for your consideration is the options that are listed in the memo, including that the elevator entrance, actually that whole alcove be made like that. The door where you walk into now would actually be swung out to cover, so you would walk into the door in the alcove. That alcove then would be enclosed. Those doors would be big enough in order to have delivery pallets be able to go into them, and then there would be more of an open foyer in there. That would be kind of a first step if the county ever decided that they needed to have a security checkpoint, because that would be the most logical places. That's our handicap accessible ordinance, our place. And then the committee would be recommending at this time, if you did that, to also considering making the access on the north by Deb's office an employee-only access that would be fobbed. County board supervisors, of course, would be eligible to receive a fob if you wanted to come in that way. But we would be trying to start to steer traffic into going into the elevator entrance or the main entrance. We've already made some of the spots in the south parking lot visitor only. All of those spots will be visitor only, including on the back side of the courthouse. Employees would not be allowed to park in that parking lot at all. they would be redirected to other areas around the courthouse and between the two annexes. So that's kind of where the security committee is leaning. There were some members on the security committee who wanted to go full bore ahead and have only one access, close down the main front doors right away too. And they decided that maybe that was too much at this point in time. But again, this is not something you need to decide tonight. You will need to decide what you want to do before Randy goes ahead with replacing the doors, because he'll have to figure out whether or not to frame in that alcove on the south side or how you want to go about doing that. But and then that's something that he wants to do next year. I do believe he has money put into his budget, which of course you guys will be approving in a couple of months, that deals with replacement of the doors, but exactly ordering the doors and deciding what you're going to do doesn't have to be decided tonight. But that's why it's on the agenda, to start thinking about it, because we are on that budget process. Yeah.
Randy, how early would you be starting that next year? Probably not till weather clears from the winter, right?
Yeah, I would say that would be a good time.
April or okay. Thank you.
Has there been any consideration given for any other types of security around those two open doors that proposed to be open, detectors or anything like that?
We had talked about that. I know that there are several counties who are taking, who don't use their detectors. I think Larry had brought that up at one of the meetings, that I think it was Wapaka County was getting rid of theirs. We don't believe, the security committee doesn't believe that, given the current budget state, that it would be realistic for us to ask for a full-time person to man it, and having a security sensor or any type of thing like that would really not be would not be a good cost if you're not going to have somebody there to man it. And we don't believe that it would be appropriate for us to ask at this time for an additional person. We do have the 3 security officers that work on a rotating basis Monday through Friday that we're very grateful that you agreed to. They have been working very well. I have gotten lots of feedback from not only the court staff, but also from offices on the first floor as well as offices in the North Annex. And I've been over in the North Annex for meetings, and I've seen our officers over there. There's been lots of employees who have indicated that they enjoy that those officers take time to stop and get to know their names and know who's supposed to be there and who's not. And I think that that's working out really well. So at this time, we're not asking for anything like that, Dennis, because we just don't think it's economically feasible.
Any other questions? Okay, and as Ruth said, this is an FYI report, and then we'll be acting on this at a later date. Okay, thank you. I misplaced my agenda. Hang on. Oh, all right. Thank you. Okay, now next is to accept or reject the EMS union contract. And Ruth is we're keeping Ruth busy tonight here.
This is why I get to sit in the big girl chair today, because I'm talking all night long. The proposed contract was in your packet. The striked out stuff was old language that the contract is proposing to get rid of. The underlined stuff was new contract language. Here's basically my packet, and I didn't even make it to all the meetings because I had court. So I'd like to thank the Personnel Committee for all of their work on this, as well as Deb and Dan's. Basically, this process started 2 years ago. My notes from the first meeting were actually dated July of 2012. So it's taken a long time to get this contract to this point, to bring it to you. Basically, the overview is that there would be no increased wages for 2012 and 2013, a 2% increase effective the first pay period after ratification. So if you ratified it tonight, it would be this pay period, because we're in a pay period right now. And at that same time, any of the paramedics and EMTs who are not currently paying for their share of retirement would pay for their share of retirement. There are a few who are, because they were hired after the date that Act 10 took effect, and Act 10 said if you're hired after this date, you have to pay it no matter what your contract says. And so there would be, it's 2% for EMT advance and paramedics hired after 2004, and 1% for paramedics hired prior to 2004. We're trying to get our paramedic wages back in line with market. And the union did ratify this on July 22nd, so their group already has ratified it, and if you are in agreement with it, then this would be our contract through the end of this year, and starting in the next couple of months, we would be going back to negotiations to start the contract for 2015.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement.
Thank you. Motion by Weddy,
I'll second it.
second by Larry Tim. Any questions or comments, Larry?
There's one, as on the personnel committee, I've gone over this several times, but I looked at it again this afternoon and I found another correction that should be made.
Okay.
And that's on page 21.
All right.
Under Article 33 on the non-discrimination. The italic statement, it's understood that the article shall not be subject to Article 8, Section 805. There is no Section 805
Okay.
or 806.
Okay.
In the new contract, it's renumbered to
Oh.
9-something.
Okay.
That should be corrected.
Yep. I'll make sure those corrections get made before we sign it.
Well, in my reviewing it, I found over 60 spelling errors and punctuation errors, and none of those have been corrected at this time.
There is a new version. Deb is working on did work on another one, and try to make some of the grammar changes and the spelling error changes. She wanted to make sure that something got out to you soon enough for you to be able to review it prior to her going on vacation. So we will make sure that all of those are corrected when the clean copy is made with just the current language.
Larry was talking about page 21. Under Article 35, you start out with 34.1. That should be 35.1.
Yep.
Just lots and lots of things like that right there that need to be taken care of. As far as the contract part of it goes, I'm not on negotiations or haven't worked with that part of it. So whatever they did, I think they did a good job at. It's just the spelling and punctuation that I think needs to be cleaned up before I could actually say I would approve it.
Okay, and that will be cleaned up in the clean version that doesn't have any of the strikeouts and the lined in things. Certainly, it's your prerogative not to approve it tonight. It's just that if we don't bring it back until next month, we just won't have a contract for another month. So, but I will do all I can to clean up everything before there is a finalized version with just the current language and all the old language taken out that both parties would sign.
I don't have a problem with
Okay.
it, as long as we clean that up and delete the old and insert the new.
Yep.
If you're going to clean up the punctuation and so on.
We've already, at the meeting, we found a lot of those, and again, the packets were going out, and we wanted to make sure that we got this into the packets before they went out. And so that's why you have a copy that has some errors. And the other thing is Deb's computer stopped doing spell checks. I think they, went to the new the new Microsoft, the newest version, and she had some problems with her computer.
She doesn't have English.
Didn't catch those. No,
on
she
hers.
doesn't. She said she could correct it in Portuguese. But it's not in English, so that's why we have that, those errors. But they will be cleaned up. Most of them have been, I'm sure. And now Larry found that one, and Russ found another one. So anyway, are there any other questions? We have a motion and a second, and I think we need a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Weddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Slaughter?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wadle?
Yes.
Mr. Rothermel?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Yes, with corrections to be updated.
Mr. Tim?
Yes.
Mr. Piaski?
Yes.
Mr. Eckstein?
Yes.
11 ayes.
Right, thank you very much. It was a work that seemed to go on, and I would also like to thank Deb and Dan Borowski and Ruth. She did a good job as well, so thank you. And the committee, of course. Thanks a lot. All right, we will move on to consideration and possible action on the following resolutions.
Want me to read them?
Yes.
Resolution number 21-8-14, opposition to proposed lapse in state funding to circuit court system.
Okay. Does
Madam
anyone? Yes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Eckstein. Are there any questions or comments concerning this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution number 22-8-14, acknowledging the commendable service of Larry Crawford as Waushara County Board Supervisor.
Motion by Eckstein to approve.
Second his motion.
Second by Bernadette. Larry did a great job for us. I'll miss his crazy jokes. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution number 23-8-14, acknowledgement of Donnelly Teschner's service to and retirement from Waushara County.
Let's read this whole thing. You want to do it?
Sure. Can I borrow yours for a second?
Certainly.
It's not right in front of me. Whereas Donnelly Teschner began her 32-year career with Waushara County in April 1982, starting as a switchboard operator / transportation coordinator, and whereas in 1987, Donna transitioned to administrative assistant to the county clerk, where her strong work ethic, attention to detail, and affinity for numbers were soon recognized, and she thereafter was promoted to budget finance specialist and then accounts payable supervisor in the county clerk's office. And whereas under Donna's watchful eye, the county has remained financially sound and fiscally responsible for all these years. And whereas Donna is known among county staff for her generous heart and willingness to volunteer her time and talents to many worthy causes. Now therefore be it resolved that the county board, on behalf of the grateful employees and residents of Waushara County, does hereby commend Donnelly Teschner for her many years of dedication and conscientious service. Be it further resolved that every good wish goes to Donnelly for a long and enjoyable retirement filled with contentment and good health.
Thank you. I thought that needed to be said. Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Oh, we didn't motion. Okay, Mark Kirschner made a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Dennis Weddy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution number 24-8-14, a resolution supporting state funding for county 911 services and one designated public service answering point per county.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Waddell. Second by Kirschner. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now, with that being said, I had mailed handout some information on the libraries that Larry and I received on Monday. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart because it irritates me so bad. But you'll see the libraries listed, and they're all out-of-county libraries. And I want you to notice how many videos people are checking out from those counties and how much it's costing us every year. We were told that for instance, in Kingston, the library there, one family checked out 675 videos in 1 year. One family, and thank goodness they moved to Amro, so we don't have to worry about it. But the county paid $2.16 for each video that they checked out. And I talked to State Senator Tiffany yesterday at a meeting in, where did I go, Mauston. And he felt that we should bring this up to our state representatives. So if you get a chance, because this is legislation I think needs to be changed. This is money that could be going to our libraries. And I don't mind paying for books. I don't mind paying for much of anything else, but I do have a problem paying for somebody to watch videos. So that's just an FYI for you.
How much money do we receive from other counties when they check items out of our counties?
56 or something.
I have that, and I don't think I brought it, but it's not nearly.
Very small amount.
Very small amount. For one thing, we don't get as much money. Like Neshgoro Library, there are 255 videos checked out, and they get $6, or we have to pay them $6.19 for each video that is checked out of the Neshgoro Library. So I just wanted you to have that information. So if you get somebody's ear, you let them know we don't like it. All right, now we need board suggestions or future agenda items. Yes.
I noticed when we opened our meeting tonight, we didn't have a silent prayer and pledge of allegiance.
I was just
wondering if
thinking
that's
about
something.
that, and we can do that now, if you'd like to, because I noticed that too.
That was just an error,
Yeah.
an oversight.
An oversight, yes.
I was just
Why don't
hoping we were
why
going to
don't we
continue
why
that.
don't we close our meeting tonight with Pledge of Allegiance and silent prayer?
I think we should, but before we do that, one more thing. We've been looking at executive and at all of our committee meetings, we've been looking at the budget. And things are looking a little bleak in some cases. And I would like to propose that we all get together one evening, probably the last week in September, and go over the budget all together before we act on it. And at that time, we can invite department heads and talk to them. And this is something we all need to do together. Because I don't like hearing that, we act on it in one committee and then we get the complaints from other committees or other board members. And I think that instead of doing that, we all take ownership of the whole budget, not just our departments, but the whole budget. So I want you to think about that. And probably in September, we can come up at September's board meeting, we can come up with a date that we can do that. We'll do it in the evening, and Deb has suggested once we do that, first of all, I asked her if it would be illegal if we did that. She said no. So we can do it. But, and we, on the agenda, after we talk to the department heads and get their feelings, and, and they can explain what's going on with their budget, Deb said we could go into closed session after that if we wanted to have a little talk amongst ourselves. So that is my proposal. Like I said, we can decide in September if we want to do that. I personally would be in favor of that. I think we all got to take ownership, and once we get done with that, then there's no complaints. Okay? On that note, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, go ahead, Everett.
Before we adjourn, I want to thank you for your comments after our vote. I think they needed to be said, and I feel 100% the same way. So
Thank you, Everett. Thank you very much.
Now I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second by Larry Tim? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Gentlemen, tomorrow.
Yeah, you got a meeting tomorrow
Gotta
morning,
be here
Sheriff.
tomorrow morning at 8:45. And don't be late, otherwise you'll holler at me.
Yeah.
See you there tomorrow morning?
Letters in the air.
Right over here in this room.
Hopefully Jeff will stay and walk me to my car. Yeah.
Well, where the hell do you go at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Right now, I'm going to Darien.
You're still driving a truck? What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm not old enough yet to quit.
You mean,
Yeah, yeah.